I'm bearing good news. The first bonus episode is coming out in 2 weeks. It's just the first of many things I've been working on for you guys, and I'm excited for you to hear it. In the meantime, I wanted to share an excerpt from my fiction series, The Many Phases of Lily Andrews. These stories can be enjoyed by children and adults alike as the language and tone age up with the main character. So if you like what you hear, the first 3 short stories are available as an audiobook on Audible and in print on Amazon, along with the full novel sequel. Links are in the show notes. I hope you enjoy. The Many Phases of Lily Andrews, a collection of short stories, written and read by Kevin Morris. Phase 1, Sunshine. Lily was 5, that ideal age for proficient verbal interaction with the world while everything is still magical and exciting. She still saw things through the lens of her growing knowledge and imagination. She was starting to get a grasp on how the world worked, but had yet to understand why it could not operate in other ways. Statements such as, "That is impossible," would be met with the question, "Why?" She was sitting in the nook of the living room wall where one might relax near the window. If Lily had been the age where she enjoyed books, it would have been a lovely spot for reading. What she was doing was a routine of hers, drinking a glass of water and staring out the window into the backyard where she had recently been playing. Lily had always loved her backyard and thought of it as a different world, cut off by towering, well-kept hedges with rows of weeping willows planted behind them, drooping over to create an even steeper wall of vegetation. This isolation, combined with how comfortable the grass was, made the backyard an ideal space for napping. This is what Lily had been doing before coming inside. Aside from the occasional creepy crawly on her clothes, these midday snoozes were always a delight. The little girl was not simply staring into space, though. Her eyes were fixed on the round miniature table resting on the cobblestone path leading into the yard. There, on the cherry-stained tabletop, sat another container of water. Before securing her own refreshment, she had gotten a glass from the dishwasher — she could not reach the cabinets — and filled it with water from the fountain at the center of the backyard. Then, as was customary, she placed it on the table, went into the house to satisfy her own thirst, and perched in the nearby window to watch the glass outside. This ritual might seem quite strange to someone who did not know Lily, but to the blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl, it was quite normal and scientific. Lily recently discovered the process of evaporation. However, she did not know what to call it, nor did she quite grasp how it worked. A few weeks before, she had accidentally left a cup of water in the sun on a hot day. By the time she realized this and went back to retrieve her drink, there was no longer any water in the cup. When Lily had asked where the water had gone, her mother smiled and replied, "It has gone up into the sky." Because of this, Lily concluded that Jesus had drunk her water. And Lily loved Jesus. She enjoyed Sunday school and even going to church if there was plenty of singing and the service did not drag on too long. So today, like every other day since her mother had told her that water can go up into the heavens, Lily set out a drink for Jesus. After all, he was a man, right? He must get thirsty. And she had never heard of anyone else asking him if he wanted a drink. For what she could remember, Jesus was always asking other people to come to him to get a drink. She did recall one story where he had asked this woman standing next to a whale if she would give him a drink. Lily had thought this strange since whales never come onto land. She wondered if its presence meant they were near an ocean. If this was the case, then why did Jesus want the woman to give him a drink if there was water all around him? The tale had never made much sense to her. Regardless, she was now determined to leave out a drink for him every day, and he seemed to enjoy it, as he always drank it all by about 3 or 4 o'clock. However, she could never seem to catch Jesus in the act. Lily was usually only able to focus for about half an hour before she either fell asleep in the warmth of the window or got bored and went to do something else. This frustrated her. While she desperately wanted to sit there for as much time as possible, the desire always seemed to dwindle the longer she remained. Today was the day, though. She was not going to fall asleep. She was going to stay focused. Lily resolved not to leave the window, even if she had to go to the bathroom. With this goal in mind, drinking water probably wasn't the best idea. So she sat. Minutes went by like hours, as they do when focusing on something unexciting. She managed to stay attentive for an impressive 30 minutes or so before finding herself making up a song about drinking water. Quickly growing bored with the song, she proceeded to invent a game to try to pass the time. She would try to spot something in the backyard of every color she knew. The first and second were the easiest. The sky was blue, and almost the entire backyard was green. She knew that the sun was yellow, so that was not too hard to find either. It took a brief search around to find a ladybug to satisfy the requirement for red. Brown was a bit harder, but she turned her eyes to an area where she had been digging for buried treasure a few days prior and spotted the exposed dirt. A second after, she realized that the table was also brown, but she already had that, so she was golden. The fountain in the center of the yard was gray. That color would have slipped her mind entirely had she not noticed it. Then there was black. That one was tough. She looked around closely, squinting her eyes as if that would help her see more clearly. An eyelash got in her eye, forcing her to pause and rub it out with her palm. While her eye was closed, she realized she was seeing black and ruled that the inside of her eyelid would count for that color. She was quite pleased with herself for getting this far. Then she remembered the color orange. There was nothing in the backyard for that. She decided to come back to it later. The next color she knew was purple. She ran into a similar problem with this. Finally, frustration put an end to the game altogether. Lily often found that her games were not very feasible. This did not bother her, though. Her thoughts turned to the sun, which was high in the sky now. A few beams of sunlight had penetrated an opening between the tree branches and hedges, streaming through the window onto the hardwood floor. Lily thought the sunbeams were beautiful. She closed her eyes and put her face in them. They were very warm and bright. The insides of her eyelids turned red instead of black while directly in the rays. That would have been easier to use for red than looking for a ladybug. She opened her eyes and sat back against the indentation in the wall. Watching the dust in the air float downward, which could only be seen through the streaks of light, she thought about how far down the light had come. The sun was pretty high up, after all. Had it come down as far as the water Jesus drank from her glass went up? Then an idea hit her. What if she could hold out her now empty glass and fill it up with sunlight? It must taste delicious. The more she pondered this, the more desirable it seemed. So she did. Lily held her cup into a ray of sunlight. As the light streamed through the container, it appeared that the glass itself was glowing, all the way up to the brim. Lily pulled the vessel back to confirm that it really was a source of light apart from the sun. Upon further inspection, she found it was not the glass itself that was luminous, but the semi-transparent yellow liquid it now contained. It was liquid sunlight. She did it. Lily then did what any 5-year-old would do after finding out this idea actually worked. She took a drink of the sunlight. It was even better than she imagined, though it was hard to compare with any other beverage she knew. It kind of tasted like purified water, but sweeter. It also gave her a warm, comforting feeling similar to drinking hot chocolate after hours of playing in the snow. However, she did not have to be cold to experience it. It seemed to warm up her soul rather than her body. She knew she was alive, but did not realize just how alive until taking that drink. It was the most refreshing thing Lily had ever tasted. Immediately, looking to spread her excitement, the little girl took her liquid sunshine and rushed into the kitchen, exclaiming, "Mommy, Mommy!" Her mother was washing dishes from the previous evening and morning meals. When she heard the joy in Lily's tone, she smiled, turned off the water, and faced her daughter. "What is it, dear?" she inquired cheerfully. "Mommy, you've got to try this," Lily said, holding out the glass. "Oh?" Her mother stooped down and took the cup. "What is it?" "It's sunlight," Lily responded proudly. The warmth of the glass and the slightly yellowish hue of its contents made her mother uneasy. "Hold on a minute, baby," the woman said in a courteous but cautious manner. Then, after standing up, she shouted toward the other room, "Honey, can you come in here a moment?" Lily heard the rolling chair in her father's study move. In a matter of seconds, her dad entered the room. "Yes, dear," he said. "Lily wants us to taste her sunlight," she told him in a grown-up way meant to veil her uncertainty about what her daughter had just handed her. "Sunlight, huh?" he asked, looking down at Lily with a grin. He was obviously amused. "Can I see it first?" Lily nodded, and he took the container from his wife. Upon feeling the liquid's temperature through the glass and seeing its color, he jumped to the same conclusion his wife had. Most would at first glance. Then Lily's dad put the strange liquid to the real test. He smelled it. It was odorless. This came as a shock, as he expected the strong smell of ammonia to push him back as his nose neared the rim. His next thought was that it might be lemonade that his daughter had left in the heat. But that thought soon passed, as Lily had no idea how to make lemonade, and his wife would not have called him in if it were that simple. Finally, he humbled himself and stooped to eye level with Lily. "Baby," he stated in a slightly uncertain tone, "what is this again?" "It's sunlight," Lily replied respectfully, ignoring the fact that her mom had just told him this. She was too eager to let it bother her. "Can you show me where you got it?" her dad asked. "Yes, sir, but will you try it first? It's getting cold," Lily implored, starting to get impatient. "Can you get more?" her father asked after a quick pause, during which he actually considered drinking the foreign substance before deciding against it. "Yes," Lily answered, slightly confused. Her father slowly stood, placed the glass on the kitchen counter, retrieved an empty glass from the cabinet, and handed it to his daughter. "Let's go get some more then," he said warmly. Her father slowly stood, placed the glass on the kitchen counter, retrieved an empty glass from the cabinet, and handed it to his daughter. With a bounce in her step, she led her parents to the living room window. They held hands and smiled to one another on the way. "Watch this," Lily said eagerly. She again put the glass into the beams of sunlight. She was as confident in this method for filling her cup as she was in using the kitchen sink. She had no idea that this was, in fact, not how things ordinarily worked, and she was actually calling on something extraordinary in converting the light energy into a tangible liquid. When she put her glass into the streaks of light, her parents looked at each other and grinned. Both thought this would make a cute story to share with their friends. However, their expressions changed from amused to dumbfounded when they saw the glass actually begin to fill with liquid. "My God," her father gasped, reaching out his hand and taking the container from Lily. She was slightly annoyed that he took the glass before it was completely full, but was more excited at the possibility that he might now drink it and share in her joy. The transition in his face, however, was not what she had expected, or hoped for. He had become frightened. "Baby, did you drink this?" he inquired grimly. "Yes, sir," Lily replied, her tone growing timid. She never would have imagined that drinking the sunlight that appeared in her glass could be wrong. "Lily, we shouldn't drink things when we don't know what they are," he reproached. This was not normal. For reasons that are obvious to those who are old enough to understand the way the world works, he knew that drinking sunlight was not supposed to be possible. Now that it had happened, he refused to believe it and was more concerned that the mystery substance might be toxic. "But Daddy," Lily responded in a hopeful voice, "I know what it is. It's sunlight." "Lily," he stated sternly, but without much confidence in his own words, "you can't drink light. It isn't liquid. You can't even really touch light. I don't know what this is or where it came from, but it cannot be real sunlight." "But Daddy," she started, fighting the lump in her throat. "That's enough, Lily," he interrupted. "I never want you to do whatever it is you just did again. And no more drinking strange things. If you don't know what something is, I want you to ask Mommy or me if it's okay to drink. Capiche?" Lily took a deep breath and sighed loudly. She so rarely did anything wrong that she was not used to being scolded. Not knowing what she had done to deserve the lecture did not help either. But she had her orders. "Okay," she groaned. Things had not turned out at all as she had envisioned. The first thing her worried parents did was pour out the sunlight she had collected into the sink. It illuminated the drain as it flowed downward. This went unnoticed by the adults, who were too busy trying to explain what they had just witnessed. For the next few hours, the drain would cast a dim light on the ceiling, resembling the beam of a dying flashlight. Lily was then taken to the emergency room to be checked out. Her father told the doctor that they were afraid she had gotten into the drain cleaner, a fabrication he used to have her examined. Lily did not understand why he said this, but was far more interested in the orange and purple bears on the doctor's lab coat. He wore it intentionally when caring for younger patients, as he found it gave him something to talk with them about. Lily liked him very much. By the end of the night, the doctor sent her home with a clean bill of health. In fact, he had remarked that she was incredibly healthy. Afterward, once her mother and father tucked her in and turned off the lights, Lily lay awake. As she played back the events of the day in her head, she decided she did not like her parents' reaction when she had turned sunlight into liquid. The little girl did not know why they seemed so disturbed by it, but felt guilty for making them feel that way. The sunlight was delicious and life-giving, but it was not worth going through that again. Everyone is afraid of something. Once, her mother, after screaming and bolting indoors to escape a wasp, said this in an attempt to explain the scene to her dismayed daughter. Lily concluded that liquid sunlight must simply be one of those things her parents feared. Then she drifted off into a pleasant dream about orange and purple bears dancing in the backyard fountain. I hope this preview piques your interest enough to give the series a chance. There's also music that accompanies the story, so if you want to hear the songs these orchestrations are based off of, I've included the links to that as well. See you in 2 weeks for the first bonus episode.